Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a TV review, and today we have a look at the pilot episode of a new series called Defiance. So this was actually two episodes molded into one to almost kind of like make a feature. Now the interesting thing about this TV show is it's actually come out as a kind of multimedia project, as you have the TV show and you also have an online MMORPG that's kind of sort of running concurrently with it basically, and what happens in the TV show will affect what happens on the actual game as well. Now, I don't actually play the game, so I'm not really going to be talking too much about that, but it's an interesting idea because I think it will give they'll both kind of scratch each other's backs from the fact that the game will kind of give people who buy the game are probably most likely to then watch the TV show, and probably people who may be interested in the TV show and don't normally play games may end up getting the game as well. So it's a clever idea. We'll see if it actually pays off. So I'm going to have a look at just the TV show today. So I'm not going to go too much into the plot because chances are you've probably seen it now. But just to give you a brief summary, it really focuses on the kind of some years after an alien occupation of Earth, and the alien race is actually a sort of a collective of, I think they said 8 races, I think it was, and they've basically I think they and then collective they're called the Votan, I think it is, and they've basically sort of terraformed the Earth to sort of like to make it so that all of these sort of different species can live on the planet Earth. And what you have is some years afterwards when there's been kind of, obviously there was conflict initially, and you've had this kind of peacetime for the most part anyway, and then you've got the humans living alongside with the majority of these aliens. And I'm not sure how long exactly you have from, I'm pretty sure it said 33 years. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I'm fairly sure from when the aliens first showed up, I think it was 33 years later that we have this sort of series set, and you've got the kind of everyone's sort of like living in more or less peace times and kind of sort of intermingling. The story really focuses on a human character called Nolan, who is basically a scavenger, and he used to be some sort of soldier and some kind of like legendary unit of human soldiers, and he has like an adopted alien daughter who's kind of like this sort of red-headed sort of but still kind of sort of pretty looking female sort of alien daughter, and they're basically going around and sort of scavenging things. They find like a fallen spacecraft and it's got like this sort of like power core or something, and they sort of have that, and but end up getting sort of attacked by bandits and are wounded and stuff. They go into that. They find this. They're found by the kind of like the police of this sort of nearby town called Defiance, which is the kind of like a sort of fairly civilized town, which has got the whole sort of different species all sort of mingling together. And they're sort of brought into the town. They hide the power source outside, and basically try to sort of initially sort of earn money because the raiders took all their gear, all their cars and stuff like that. And then we basically are introduced to the rest of the sort of characters that are in this town. You have like a human female mayor, and you have like, by the looks of it, 2 sort of prominent families. One sort of human, they're kind of like a Native American family. Then you have like another sort of another family who are sort of like this a different type of alien, and a few other sort of different characters as well. And we see some sort of like the politics of what's happening there. And there's a kind of there's a murder investigation, and this Nolan kind of gets like roped into sort of helping them. And because there's the sheriff gets killed, and basically he has to sort of take the sheriff's place. And then we have this basically attacked by this sort of other sort of force of one of these other races, and they for some reason want to come over and destroy this town, and then they, of course, all the town band together and sort of, you know, become one to sort of fight off this common menace. So, in a very, very brief nutshell, that's the plot. So, what I liked about this, obviously, it had for a TV, it was fairly epic. You know, obviously it's got CGI in it, but it's TV quality CGI, so it's, you know, it doesn't look quite as good as you know, obviously that you're going to see on the cinema and things like that. The makeup was fairly good on the aliens. They're all kind of human-esque type with what I call the sort of Star Trek sort of style of, you know, some of them have got like a, you know, bits on their nose and things like that, and look mildly different, but they're not massively inhuman, apart from this like one race that we see at the end when they cut these, like the antagonists basically, or this kind of like warrior race, they want to wipe out everyone. But for the most part, they're all relatively human and a sort of or humanoid at the very least. So the makeup looks pretty good. Now, I will say this. To me, I found it quite cliche. It seemed like it was very much taking. It doesn't try to do anything that we haven't sort of seen before in other types of TV. It didn't really take any sort of risks to me, and that's not necessarily a bad thing at this early stage. But it didn't really. I mean, what's happening? I pretty much was guessing before it happened. You know, we knew. I pretty much gathered that this guy was going to have to find some reason. You know, he was going to find some reason to stay in this town. The sheriff getting killed, and he just happens to be the next qualified one to be able to take over the job. And at the end, they have to sort of sacrifice this power source that they've discovered to sort of save the inhabitants of the town. So to me, it was fairly safe TV, sort of fairly, you know, the script wasn't anything particularly new, I didn't think. The acting overall was you know, fairly acceptable for TV standard. I think the most interesting character for me was the adopted daughter of this Nolan. She seems to be a little bit more sort of resistive to what's sort of going on than he does. He to me seems like a very stereotypical kind of, you know, rough cut sort of leading man, you know, sort of reluctant hero, but I think he seems quite generic, if you ask me. I found her character a lot more interesting, to be honest. We'll see it obviously in the early days, but if you were to look at this as a sort of a film, just on the 2 episodes that you've seen, I thought he was fairly generic to go along with this fairly generic story. Now, what I would have liked to have seen was a bit more idea of what actually the reasons were why the aliens were here, why it is that they sort of why are these races all sort of together as kind of one collective unit? What was the end game? They haven't ultimately tried to take over the Earth. They've tried to sort of coexist in it, but it looks like there was some sort of force to begin with. So I didn't really understand the motivations of these kind of alien races, and it seems that some of them are at odds with each other. Like this race at the end seems to be this kind of like warrior race, and everyone's sort of going up to fight them, and they sort of, there's a line in it that say, "Oh, we need to find out who sent them." But to me, I didn't really. So it didn't seem quite cohesive to me. I mean, I guess it's trying to hook you into watching more episodes, but I just found it didn't make quite as much sense as I wanted it to initially. I also found it quite. If it is 33 years from when the aliens are from evading Earth, to me that seems fairly quick to have them, to humans to pretty much live side by side, and it looks like that hasn't just happened either. It looks like that's the way it's been going for at least a good few years, because everything's, you know, fairly established at this point. So it seems to me that everyone's forgot that the aliens basically invaded Earth and are now quite happy to sort of. I mean, this female alien that is adoptive daughters probably around 20. If it's judge it by human years as such. So it seems like the sort of status quo of this peacetime has been going on for a fairly long time. So it just seems to me that if these aliens did invade the Earth, it's a relatively short time ago. It just seems that people have kind of made peace with it a little bit too quickly for me. Who knows? And that's just my opinion on it. I mean, I guess as a TV show will kind of it will kind of follow on fairly, and maybe give you those answers. The fact that the actual series reminded me of a cross between Alien Nation, basically where you have this kind of sort of pre-existing sort of status quo of all these aliens sort of cohabiting on Earth. So it reminded me of that. It also reminded me a little bit of a show like Babylon 5, although this is shows purely based on Earth. Obviously, you've got all these sort of different alien races sort of cohabiting with each other, and they've all got the sort of various sort of interspecies grudges and things like that. And there was a TV series, and I forget the name of it now. I'm trying to think about it, but recently, which was a kind of like a dinosaur program where they kind of a bunch of people went back in time and tried to live there. Not dinosaur. I can't remember what that's actually called now. I'll try and put a thing up once I think of it. But it reminded me of that because that to me was the same type of show where it kind of didn't take risks. It was fairly generic, I always thought, and the characters were very, very much sort of typical sort of characters that you see in these these sort of TV shows. So it'll be interesting to see if this carries on past one season. I think it maybe needs to try and just distinguish itself a little bit from the crowd. I've got a feeling that this may not be massively mainstream sort of going forward. The one advantage that it's got where it's got the time of the video game, that might well bring in some extra viewers, which I'm guessing is the game plan. But we'll see if this actually really amounts to much more than the kind of like the one sort of season. I guess it's going to depend. We'll see in the next few weeks about the viewing figures. So I'll give this show a 7 out of 10 for this first pilot episode. I mean, I do think it played it fairly safe, and I would maybe like to see a little bit more explanation about what actually happened, to be honest with you. And I think it does need to try and maybe be a little bit more original. And I've got the impression. Here's the thing. Here's my issue with a lot of these sci-fi shows. They always say, "Oh, we want to see the human element." No, we don't. If you're watching a sci-fi film, we want to see the alien element. I don't want to see the human element, the human story. We see that every day on TV. I want to see other stuff that you don't see every day on TV. That just sounds like a cheap, way of producers having to sort of making things sound dramatic when it's actually an excuse just to save money by doing the human element. So there you go. So 7 out of 10. Let me know what you thought of the pilot episode, and will you be catching later episodes? Leave us a comment and look forward to seeing you next time. See you later.